very glad to be here, and this is to use a word that is used at the highest levels of the European Commission, a beautiful event. Brings together many knowledgeable people, many experts. Brings you closer to the topic of our discussion in PM², and brings a few very interesting themes together, part of which is the theme that my presentation is part of. I will focus more specifically on the advantage that PM² brings to us as a European methodology, as a methodology developed and sponsored by the European Commission for projects not only in the public sector, not only in international institutions, but also in helping manage or support the management from all sides of EU-funded projects, direct funding or indirect funding, such as the RRF. Without any delay, I'll move forward and show you a very high-level table of content of our presentation today. I'll discuss some common challenges of project management, more specifically in the public sector environment with some specificities. I will then move into presenting you the PM² Advantage for any type of projects, but particularly for those of our topic from today. And I will also present the role of the PM² Alliance, the PM² Alliance Advantage in this whole ecosystem. First of all, I would like to introduce my own perspective to this topic. I've been very lucky the past 10 years, as mentioned, to be involved in consulting and training projects all over Europe with major institutions, but also smaller ventures and startups. So my role as a consultant, being invited, contracted to go into organizations and help them improve project management. As a trainer, part of my assignment usually is explaining things to staff, management, in my effort to help them do better project management. As an author of methodologies, on the one hand, used in my consulting and my training, but also closing the loop and capturing my experiences and feedback as a consultant and a trainer, but also as a community leader with the PM² Alliance, being able to be so close to larger community, communicating with other community leaders, but also, very importantly, integrating the perspective of the open community back into my work and to the methodologies. And what I've seen in these past 10 years is that no matter how different organizations are, no matter what level they are, they all share common challenges. This is on the one hand encouraging to know that none of the organizations is alone. You as a project practitioner, you're not alone. We share a lot of challenges, but also it is a way for us to apply similar common solutions to similar problems, of course, always with variations. But these challenges have to do with setting up projects with the quality of management, with the quality of the deliverables, the satisfaction of people working in projects, people funding projects, people using the outputs of projects, has to do with matters of effectiveness and efficiency in the management of the funds, of the work, of the people. And at the end of the day, all this comes back to issues with the results, with the outputs, with what we achieve, the benefits, but also in the way of stress for people working on the ultimate shock absorber for bad or not as good projects. At the end of the day, organizations can choose to do something about it or pretend that these issues or challenges are not there and continue doing what they're doing. Now, as I mentioned, my experience and the topic of this presentation focuses a little bit on the specific environment of international institutions, but also public sector. And the third dimension here, which maybe connects all these, is projects that are funded by the European Commission or other EU instruments, and direct funding like the Horizon Europe funds and many others, the Erasmus Plus, or indirect funds that are managed through national bodies and agencies. And these projects all have challenges because of the multi-party composition, because the funding authority is different from the contracting authority, different from the contractor. But at the end of the day, they're projects and they follow the general project management challenges, and therefore they need project management tools to be managed properly. Some of the specific conditions that I have encountered, that I have seen in public organizations, international organizations to a large extent follow these, is that public sector organizations are, of course, bureaucracies. Their goal is to provide a service, but at the end of the day, the way they handle specific topics such as risk, opportunity, and value is slightly different from those of the private sector. An ultimate goal of bureaucracies is to minimize risk of reputational risk, financial risk, risk of any type of exposure to its management, political risk, or to its staff. Therefore, the way they approach projects and more specifically discovering and unfolding opportunity, and their view on creating value has a relative conservative spin to it. There are, of course, very strong hierarchical, traditional functional structures, as we call them in project management, sometimes pretending or trying to be a little bit more matrix, but at the end of the day, the hierarchy is dominant in decision-making and all aspects of projects or work happening in these organizations. They are mostly procedure-based and rules-based. That's the number one priority, is to not break any of the important rules and follow procedures, even if sometimes that means that opportunities are not pursued or value is not created to its maximum. Of course, politics dominate, not just government politics, but also office politics. Political decisions almost always override other priorities and plans. And a major concern is producing the paper trail that is necessary to secure people working in public organization, to protect them from audits or be able to prove sane financial, primarily, management of projects. Finally, I'd like to say that it seems to me, both as a contractor but as a consultant, that contract execution is a very high priority. Getting deliverables, outputs is again a contractual priority, therefore focused on, and the attention is much less on achieving what we call in project management outcomes, and after that achieving the benefits and the value that is intended with these projects. So these conditions, of course, this list is not exhaustive, and I by no means need to paint a picture of public sector that is not conducive to good project management. And of course, I've seen very good project management and very good projects being conducted in the public sector. Another issue with, but it's true for many organizations, is what I call project management, the 3D project management problem. Many organizations, public sector including, have management deficiency. That is a lack of understanding of what they're lacking of in terms of management, more specifically project management in our case. They also have what I call management deficit. That means very often they know they don't have enough, but there's not much they can do. And despite that, very often they move forward in managing large initiatives, large projects, having management debt. That means borrowing from the future. Just like any financial debt, it's a strategy to move forward, knowing that you don't have what it takes, infrastructure, skills, people, but you still move forward in launching big and ambitious projects, knowing or hoping that you will catch up with parallel training and consulting and experts. One dangerous thing with management debt is at some point you have to pay it back. And if you don't do anything about it, the debt installments, the interest payments are higher than the ability of the organization to do, meaning that you spend too much effort and management attention into this. So how do we deal with these problems? I mentioned common problems, common solutions. Project management is our weapon, and more specifically, the PM² methodology is a great weapon that the European Commission has given to the world. It has been opened as an open source methodology for all to use, not just staff of the European Union and institutions and member states, but to every project manager, every organization. Its purpose is to ensure that it enables project teams to manage projects in an effective and efficient manner. Why? For the purpose of delivering solutions and benefits to its organizations and its stakeholders. We're in Greece. It's a conference organized in Greece. I couldn't avoid bringing up the fact that methodology is a Greek word, is connected to the word odos, which means way. So a method is something that literally shows us the way in pursuit of knowledge, in pursuit of achieving something. Therefore, project management methodology is what we will use as our weapon. And smarter people than us mentioned that PM² is the right methodology to help organizations. And even though smarter people than us have attested that, we need to focus on what is really important for project management, and PM² manages to capture these very successfully. I'll start by pointing out the fact that one of the first things that we need to do when managing a project well is to identify which of the whole value chain is part of the project. And naturally, the focus of a project is to achieve outputs, the deliverables, whereas the focus of program management is much, much wider, exploring the need, opportunity, or problem, converting that into a solution, finding the right project or projects that implement these solutions in terms of delivering outputs. That, in turn, with use, will produce the outcomes when measured benefits, and when subtracted the cost of the project, we see if we have produced any value. A very interesting chain, a very holistic view of project management that PM² doesn't forget. PM² is not built in isolation, is not reinventing the wheel. It's built on project management best practices, globally recognized best practices supported by 4 pillars: that of an effective governance pillar, roles and responsibility, who does what, an intuitive life cycle, phases, one comes after the other, so we know where we are and where to focus our attention every time. A set of processes, management activities that help us know what to do to manage the project, and it provides us with a set of artifact templates, that is, tools that can help us capture our planning, our thinking, and document them. All of this is wrapped with a set of effective mindsets that brings everything together for effective delivery of solutions and benefits with a level of control and agility. And although there's many books out there that gives us all the parts of project management, books with very rich content of 700 pages and more, these are very useful, and this approach to project management is part of the overall story, but knowing the parts is not enough. We need a plan. Just like in projects, we don't rely on just a work breakdown structure, but we want a schedule, knowing who has to do what and when. So we need a recipe book. We need something that gives us not only all the ingredients, but also tells us how to prepare the cake, the project management cake. We need something closer to an IKEA guide, something that takes us step by step and showing us not only all the parts, but also showing us the sequence of how we put together project management, how we define projects, how we execute them, how we plan them and then execute them, and also close them. And of course, it would be over optimistic to say that PM² or any other methodology is a step-by-step guide in such a detail that all you need to do is follow the manual. Every methodology provides us, or should provide us, answers to many questions, which I'll show you right away. But at the end of the day, is more equivalent to a good map of all the things that need to be done and a good compass of what to do and how much attention to pay to each one of these. So we need to ask important questions for two sides. One, the deliverables, the product that we're building, the outputs of the project, but also for the project management side, the process side. These questions are: what needs to be done to satisfy the scope of the project and build the products? When do I have to do something? That activity that's assigned to who and when they have to do it to complete it. How do they do it? What skills do they need? What information do they need? What tools and techniques do they need? And finally, the same questions on the process side and apply to a different domain. That is, what project management activities I need to execute? When do I need to execute them? Who has to execute them? Is it always the project manager? How do we do them? What is, again, the tools, the project management tools, project management artifacts? And an important question is, why would I do any of these? Why do I need a specific project, a specific deliverable tied to my problem, need, or opportunity implemented via a solution? But also the same questions: why do I need project management? Why do I need a specific project management activity, a phase, an artifact? Why do I have to do these? When do I have to do them? And so forth. So PM² in one slide gives us all these answers, gives us a life cycle, clearly identified inputs and outputs, extended with an agile life cycle with iterations of at various levels. It gives us a set of templates, of documentation templates organized by phase. It gives us a rich governance structure, extended again with agile roles. It gives us specific assignment of responsibilities to every single role. More specifically, a very powerful feature of the PM² methodology is its governance model. It's very powerful for any project and extremely suitable in addressing the challenges of projects in the public sector and EU-funded projects. I won't go as a training through the governance in detail, but I will highlight the fact that it has two sides here. On the left side, you have the owners of the projects, you have the business managers and people who understand the needs and who control the development of the project provided by the solution provider side, often external to the organization and the project manager's team. You also see several layers addressing directing layer issues, managing layer, performing layer, and business governing layer. I will show you an example of tailored governance structure for projects that are funded by the European Commission, with a project officer deciding on the funding or not of this project and the whole bureaucracy behind them. A steering committee comprised by all parties. On the left side, you have the beneficiary, usually a public organization that is managing the funds allocated by the European Union, with a business manager knowing the domain of the project better, and a beneficiary project manager managing the whole internal development and delivery of the project, but also interfacing with the contractor side, comprised by a solution provider, a contract solution provider, contract management, engagement management, whatever is called by the side of the contractor, a contractor project manager that manages the contractor's team, that work with a very tight collaboration and communication channel. This governance structure has been used in many projects in the public sector and in funded, and with the agreement of all parties is an effective layer of management that works very well. These are not the only advantages of PM², a set of mindsets that speaks to the public sector, that speaks to people involved in EU-funded projects, that deals with or tries to bring together closer to an outcomes orientation, to be committed to results, to collaboration, to self-improvement and organizational improvement, knowledge sharing, and remaining mindful above all that methodologies are there to help projects and organizations and not the other way around, us running the project of running the methodology. It addresses the socio-cultural aspect of project management. Technical aspects is covered by processes and the tools that bring together a holistic view of managing projects. The training and education of project managers in PM² is taken care of by the open PM² business ecosystem. One specific incentive taken by the PM² Alliance is offering a certification program that is rich and suitable for certifying people at all levels, from the very basic to the most advanced, including certification of experts, consultants, and instructors. This is organized in 3 levels of knowing, helping self, and being able to help others. Why am I presenting this? Because I will be soon talking about the larger open PM² ecosystem that supports any project manager, any organization that is harnessing the power and the benefits of PM². This certification is offered by the PM² Alliance, a nonprofit organization that brings the open PM² community together in an effort to promote the PM² all over the world, but also synthesize perspectives, needs, and new knowledge, new best practices back into the broader body of knowledge of PM². The mission of the PM² Alliance is to enable better project management for the public benefit, and through the many initiative that is taken, is able to provide this many services and satisfy this mission. One of them is a translation of the guides in multiple languages. Most probably, there is a version of PM² in your own language. The PM² works with the open community in producing these publications, and acknowledges the contribution of all the translations and the contributors of the original methodology. The business ecosystem that is created or initiated by PM² is quite rich. It includes advisory committee members, volunteer network, regional coordination network, a network of affiliated training providers, of affiliated certification agents, with a professional certification program that I mentioned, a train the trainer program, strategic partnerships with private and public organizations, releasing an open format, open source format, its publications, having an organizational members network, a students ambassador network, and academic network fulfills its mission in developing the open PM² ecosystem that brings value back to everybody that is needed. Part of this ecosystem deals with topics exactly like the one we're dealing today. So I invite you to explore some of the resources with a specific topic of PM² in the public sector in previous conferences, but also I invite you to follow, of course, the rest of the conference and all the speakers. I would like to give a little bit of attention to the panel that is organized with a specific topic of discussing challenges and application of PM² as enabling the Greece's National Recovery and Resilience Agency program. Closing my presentation, I'd like to share with you some thoughts regarding the topic of our presentation. PM² is one of the best things that has happened to Europe and European project management in the past decade. It brought together a lot of wisdom, a lot of experience in creating an advantage for those who use this methodology. It presents a suitable governance structure, not to underestimate the power and the enabling factor of a good project governance. as opposed to a weak governance that does not work in functional and matrix organizations. It offers templates in your language, most probably, with rich guidelines that allow you to document your project in a language that is understood by the public sector, in a language and in a way that is appreciated and understood by the European Commission and the European Union institutions. It has very low barriers of effort to start using it. The guide itself is very lean and very well explained, but also the cost of ownership in terms of training, certification, or purchasing publications as PM² is free and open source. It also gives you the opportunity to tailor to the needs of your organization. So the total cost of ownership is low, both for the methodology, but also for acquiring and maintaining certification for your organization. But above all, it's a European methodology that understands the culture, understands the broader environment. It is sponsored by the European Commission, and not only. It's been tried and proven in a broad range of projects, and has proven its worth in not only the institutions in the public sector, but also in the open project management ecosystem, the European project management ecosystem. Finally, before I close and give the floor back to our moderator for questions, I'd like to invite you to explore the various booths of the conference and visit us at our PM² Alliance booth, download the information, and stay in touch.